All right, well, it's 9:31. Good morning, everyone. This is Kate Lee Carey, the chair. Um, I'm sure I'll be seeing some people as we go along today, but happy Wednesday, November 3rd. I think before we get started, I'm just looking through, the moderator did say we have a quorum. I'm just looking through the names on the side here, and it does look like we have that we need. We'll go through and do the usual.
I see you have some canine assistants.
I didn't see that one. Must be down below my, there's more attendees. So, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to start with some housekeeping, and then we'll do our usual welcome and introduction. So I want to welcome everybody to this committee meeting. I want to ask you all, as the moderator already indicated, to keep your phones, cell phones, and other things silent while you're speaking, if you can, so that we can keep background noise, and keep yourself muted when you're not talking. That would be great. Today's meeting is run according to the Badgley-Keene Open Meeting Act. Since the meeting is via WebEx, I will ask all the committee members and speakers to announce themselves by name before speaking for clarity for the record. Advisory committee members are able to unmute themselves to speak during the meeting. Please place yourself back on mute when you're not speaking. This will help to ensure the best audio quality. We will ensure that all comments from the advisory committee members and speakers that can be accommodated are heard before proceeding with the agenda. The advisory committee welcomes public comments on any item on the agenda, and the committee will ask for public comments on each agenda item prior to any potential action being taken. During each item, the host moderating this WebEx will activate the Q&A feature of WebEx and will ask anyone wishing to make a public comment to indicate so by typing into the chat, "I would like to make a comment." The host will then call on individuals who indicate they wish to make public comments using the name under which they've joined the WebEx event. When called upon, the host will unmute the microphone of that individual. They'll have 3 minutes to make their public comment. After the 3 minutes have elapsed, the individual will be placed back on mute. Only one public comment per agenda item is allowed per attendee. Please be aware that public comments should provide information to the committee and is not a discussion between the committee and the Bureau, staff, and/or the public. The only action the committee can take is to listen to comments and decide whether they want a future agenda item on the topic. No other action could be taken on the item at this meeting. Following these guidelines is critical to ensure open meeting rules are followed and to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the goals of the committee. So the second agenda item is public comments for items not on the agenda. We do this for every meeting. The committee has limited the total public comment period to 30 minutes. So if you do have a comment when we get to that item, just know that we will cut it off after 30 minutes if it gets there. Public comment on the other agenda items is limited to 20 cumulative minutes, but obviously each person has 3. As noted, there's I just said that. Okay. The Department of Consumer Affairs IT staff will assist with receiving public comments via WebEx during the meeting. I want to remind all speakers to please stay on topic and keep your comments to the allotted time. If members of the public have a question for the advisory committee or the Bureau, as opposed to a comment, you're welcome to submit that via email to bppe@dca.ca.gov. So before we get started, I'm looking to see if he is here. I don't think he is, so we'll get back to that. We will be having a new member joining us, and that is Senator Richard Roth, who is the newest appointee to the advisory committee. Debbie, is the senator here? I don't see his name.
Yes, he is here.
Oh, there he is. Sorry about that, Senator. Senator Roth represents portions of Riverside County and is currently chair of the Senate Committee on Business, Professions, and Economic Development. And as chair, he authored SB 802, the Bureau Sunset Bill, which we've been discussing over the course of the past year and was signed last month. Welcome, Senator, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, this is my first year, rounding out my first year chairing the Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee. My first foray into this area, I spent a couple of years, as you know, chairing the Budget Subcommittee on Education Finance, and about 6 years before that, chairing the one on state administration and local government, which included some oversight over the DCA and special funds and things like that. But again, I'm sort of new to this, so I certainly appreciate you inviting me to participate as a member, ex officio member of this advisory committee. I know you know this, but and your members know this, but I want to tell you that we rely on you and committees and groups just like yours to assist us in the effective implementation of laws and regulations in the state. And I look forward to participating because I'm positive that it will give me a unique vantage point, gaining further insight into the important work you do and what we need to do in the future. Just one housekeeping note. I'm not going to talk very long. You have important things to do, but I do want to let you know that, I will try to make every meeting that I can. Sometimes if meetings occur during session, I won't be able to be here. And I want to designate my staff director of the Business Professions and Economic Development Committee, Sarah Mason, to serve in my stead. And I hope you will accept that. So again, thank you. I look forward to participating.
Thank you, Senator. And Sarah is always welcome here. So welcome, Senator. Very excited to have you here, and of course, join in the conversation as we go along. But for your benefit, and because we always do this, we'll go through and have each person give a quick intro of themselves. Usually, what we do is name your position on the advisory committee. So if you're a public member, institutional representative, that kind of thing, and what you do, then you'll know who we are, and we can make sure that we have taken attendance. So I am Kate Lee Carey. I am the chair of the committee. I've been serving on this committee since its inception in 2010. I think Margaret Ryder and I are the sole survivors of the original board committee. I'm an attorney, I'm an institutional representative, and I work for Cooley LLP. And Deb, I don't know that you need to introduce yourself, but I see you on my screen, so why don't you? And then I'll go through the rest of the board.
Sure. Thank you so much. Debbie Cochran, Bureau Chief with the Bureau for Private Postsecondary Education, and so glad you could make it here, Senator Roth.
Margaret?
Hi, Margaret Ryder. I'm a consumer representative and also welcome the Senator. It's great to have you here to see and hear what we do or try to do.
I'm just going through my David. No? Okay.
David isn't here today.
Oh, okay. Then Joseph Holtz.
Hello, good morning. My name is Joseph Holt. I'm an institutional representative serving on the committee. I work at Ember Education, and likewise, welcome, Senator. Thanks for joining.
Kenson.
Hi, my name is Kenson Chu. I'm a public representative. Thank you, Senate, for joining us.
Kenson. Sorry, 1 second. Just list pulled back up here. One of the challenges of the WebEx versus in-person papers and screens here. Is Diana Amaya with us?
She is not.
Not? Okay. Zima Creason?
Morning, Zima Creason here. I am a former student. I am also the executive director of the California Edge Coalition. So happy to see you, Senator Roth. We've partnered in the past. And I'm also a governing board member sitting on the San Juan Unified Board of Education.
Great. Thanks, Zima. Melanie Delgado?
Hi, I'm Melanie Delgado. I'm a consumer member, and I am an attorney at the Children's Advocacy Institute at the University of San Diego Law School. And welcome, Senator.
Lee Farron?
Good morning. My name is Lee Farron. I am an attorney at the Public Law Center. I'm a consumer advocate appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly.
Thanks, Lee. And David Weiss? see David on here. Oh, it's like the other David. Okay. Um, Sorry, I'm just going through to make sure that I've gotten everybody. Is there anybody from the committee that I did not call on? Okay, great.
Kevin Powers
Oh,
is
hey,
here.
Kevin. Sorry about that. I didn't get to you yet. Scrolling down. There you are. Hi, Kevin.
No problem at all. Good morning. Kevin Powers here on behalf of Assemblymember Jose Medina.
All right, welcome. So as we're getting started, I think for the committee members, if you want to leave your cameras on as the meeting is going, I think that can be helpful for us to kind of see who's talking as things are happening. So if you are comfortable and don't mind being on camera, it would be great to have a sight line on everyone. So if you could turn your cameras on, great, I'd appreciate it. And I think with that, Richie, can you confirm our quorum is established?
Yes, we currently have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. All right, awesome. Well, with that, then we can proceed with the first agenda item, which is public comment on items not on the agenda. If you recall from my lengthy housekeeping, this is an opportunity for the public to comment on things that are not on the agenda for potential future discussion. You have 3 minutes for any such comment, and I will turn it over to the moderator to open the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to speak on this agenda item, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator, and Madam Chair, at this time I see no request for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel? All right, I see no request for public comment at this time. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was telling you yes and then talking to myself because I was muted.
Okay,
So,
all right, it's closed.
thank you. You'd think after 19 months of this, I'd have it straight. The next item is review and approval of the August 26th, 2021 Advisory Committee meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Ms. Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chanton. I will go through the roll for vote. Sorry, I have to keep switching papers here. Okay, so we'll do a aye or nay vote as we go through the list of the members. So I vote aye. Margaret?
Aye.
Thank you. Joseph?
Aye.
Hanson?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Melanie?
Aye.
Zima?
Aye.
Did I miss anybody? Okay. Then we have unanimous consent on approval for the minutes of the August meeting. Thanks, everybody. Moving on to item 4, remarks by representative of the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Is there any public comment on the meeting minutes from August 26th?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to comment on the minutes, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, Madam Chair, I see no comments or requests for comments at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's closed.
All right. Agenda item 4, remarks by representative from the DCA. You can open the floor to the DCA representative.
Good morning, Chair Lee Carey, Advisory Committee members, and Bureau Chief Debbie Cochran. I'm Carrie Holmes, Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. I would like to welcome Senator Roth as the newest member of the committee. Thank you for being here. DCA appreciates all committee members and staff who have continued to serve through a pandemic that has affected all of us in many ways. We are working together to find the right balance of staying connected and productive while also staying safe and healthy. DCA and all its boards and bureaus continue to look to the future and use lessons learned to identify long-term efficiencies and policy changes. Staff are working in the office to provide the most effective consumer protection and public service, while also utilizing telework where appropriate. DCA is assembling a task force to help the department create a telework policy that will provide further clarity and structure for managers and staff. To combat the spread of COVID-19 and protect vulnerable communities, California has implemented enhanced safety measures for state employees and workers in healthcare settings. State employees must show proof of vaccination or be subject to regular COVID-19 testing. DCA's testing program kicked off in early October at DCA Headquarters 1. Board and committee members must follow health and safety protocols if they plan to visit a DCA location or attend an in-person meeting. Members must verify vaccination or follow testing protocols. Please communicate any plans for in-person meetings as soon as possible so DCA can assist with coordination of vaccine verification and COVID-19 testing. DCA recognizes the difficulty of planning for future meetings as the pandemic continues to evolve. As the law stands today, remote meetings are allowed until January 30th, 2022, after which time meetings will need to be in person in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. We don't know what additional changes to the law may be coming, but I think we all recognize there are benefits to remote meeting options, such as increased public participation, cost savings, and a lower carbon footprint due to reduced travel. DCA encourages boards and bureaus to continue utilizing remote meetings this year to protect the health of staff, board members, and the public. We will keep you updated on any additional changes to meeting requirements. Whether remote or in person, the voice of each committee member is important, and DCA would like to work with you to ensure a fully seated and diverse committee. There's one remaining vacancy for a former student of an institution to be appointed by the director of DCA. This must be an individual who is not employed by an institution. If individuals are interested in serving, please visit DCA's website to apply for an appointment. If you have any questions about eligibility, please reach out to member relations at dca.ca.gov. As a reminder, 2021 is a mandatory sexual harassment prevention training year. This means all employees and committee members are required to complete the training during this year, which is rapidly approaching its end. We've created profiles for each of you in the Learning Management System, or LMS, which is DCA's training portal, where you will access the training. Board and Bureau Relations is happy to assist you with any questions or concerns you have about using LMS. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help. If there's anything I can do, please reach out. This concludes my presentation.
Thanks, Carrie. Is there anyone else from the DCA that's going to be joining us today, Carrie?
Not at this time.
All right, great. So thank you very much for those comments, Carrie. I appreciate it. I will open the floor to public comment regarding the DCA presentation. If anyone has any public comment, now is the time. Moderator, I'll let you open the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 4, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the panel in the lower right-hand side of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is number 5, Bureau Operations Update. Just as a reminder, we will do each of the agenda 5A and then public comment, 5B and then public comment. So we'll go through each letter. For the ones that have, like D has the 3 subsets, we'll do it after D is complete. Thank you. My lovely husband has brought me coffee. Thank you. So we'll start with 5A, the IT system project.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Bales. I am the Education Administrator for BPPE. I'm over the Quality of Education Unit, the Annual Reports Unit, and I am also the project owner for the Bureau's ongoing IT project. So I think I talked a little bit about the project last time, but for the benefit of the new folks, we are basically we have a team developing a brand new IT system to replace a system that we've had in place for like 15 years. Right now, the project end date has been extended to April 3rd of next year, and 4 additional sprints have been added to the project. And that is to make sure that that the functionality, full functionality that we have asked for and are paying for is going to be delivered by the end of the project. So the team is currently working on the Student Tuition Recovery Fund claim application process, the STRIF application processing in the back office, the annual fee submission process online, and continual work on the data migration from our old sales system into the new Connect system. Part of the reason for the delay, I guess I will call it, is that typically with an agile delivery system, you have folks meeting together to kind of discuss functionality, and if you can envision everyone being in a large room looking at a monitor together. We haven't had we haven't had the ability to do that because of COVID, and so there has been a little bit of delay in the project. So we're looking at user acceptance testing to begin February 14th of next year, with the final project release being April 3rd. One positive thing is that our overall budget of just over 13 million is still projected to come under. We're looking at about 93% of our budget by the end of the project. So we won't have to ask for any additional funds for the project since we are already under budget. And that's my update on the IT system.
Thanks, Robert. I know this has been the driving your life for the past few years, and we appreciate all the hard work. Does anyone on the committee have any questions or comments for Robert before I open the floor for public comment?
This is Joseph. I have one comment and question for Robert. Thanks again for your leadership on this project over these last years. Can you confirm my understanding that given the Agile project management system, that there have been many deliverables that are already in action, like the system is working in some ways, and so it's not everything launches at the end, but it's launched as features are developed? And if yes, roughly on a percentage basis, how much of the Bureau's work has already been positively impacted by the project?
Sure. Thanks, Joseph, for that question, actually. So we do have full functionality of our initial approval to operate application. That right now, that is the only application that is completely 100% live in the system. The team is working on additional applications right now. We also have the ability for folks to submit a complaint online. We've had that functionality for probably about 4 months now, and that's fully operational, as well as the back office handling of that complaint and all the information and data associated with it going into the Connect system. So Our complaint investigations unit is totally on Connect. They're not using the old system at all. They've made a full transition, including all the data migration that goes with it. As far as a percentage, I don't know off the top of my head, what the percentage is, but we do have some functionality. And again, the Agile system, Agile development system, gives us the opportunity for the team to develop parts of the system, if you will, for different units, and then test those parts to make sure that they work before we get to the very end of the project. And so we continue to do that. The Striff functionality is just about done. It's in the final phase of testing. So we anticipate that to be fully developed probably within 30 days. And we just keep pressing on with the remaining applications and the remaining functionalities. Hopefully that answered your question.
It does. Thank you.
Excuse me. Hi, this is Margaret. Some questions, one of which I think I had asked last time, and I gather that information is not yet available. And that is some information about what new categories will be available in the new system for classifying complaints. We talked about there seem to be quite a few things lumped under other type categories, non-jurisdictional, so on. And I was hoping to hear back at this point. Do you have a idea of when we might be able to get that information?
Hi, Margaret. Yes, I believe we spoke about that in our last meeting. I'm not 100% sure. I think Clarissa, when she provides her update, can probably share that information with you. I don't know specifically what those additional categories are, but I know that the ability of Connect to break things into subcategories, if you will, exists, where in Sail it did not. So I would probably ask Clarissa when she gets up to give her presentation.
The other question and comment I have, and I don't know that this is really for you, Robert, but for in relation to this whole new IT system altogether, one of the things I expressed interest in and concern about is the students' ability to find out information about schools. So I spent a little time recently on the website trying to figure out what is there and what isn't there that needs to be there. And I sort of jotted down, I guess I have about 2 pages of notes here that I can send in that to the extent might be helpful. I'm happy to share that with the committee if folks want it, or I can just send it directly to BP. But in a brief form, if you're a student and you're interested in X program, let's say, oh, I want to be a truck driver. Right now on the website, you can go on, and if you look under students, you can put in truck driver, and then it will pull up a bunch of schools that offer truck driving. When you click on one of those schools, it doesn't really give you much of any information about the school at all. If you want to find out, for example, how many students they had, how many they graduated, how many they placed, whether they've been inspected, what the results were of the inspection, what their annual report says, what their fact sheet says, any of those things is not tied to that school. And so then I look around, well, where can I get that information? And I go to schools, and pretty much under schools, it's information for schools, not for the public about schools. So I wound up going to search, and when you search a school, you wind up with a mixed up list of a bunch of different things, not in any sort of order. So in there might be something that says annual report summary. So I click on that, and that turns out to be the Bureau's summary of all of the annual reports. And then I try something that says, I'm not sure exactly if I remember all of these, but inspections or something like that. And I go in there, and some of those wind up with a whole list of schools, and I have to click on the letter, and then from the letter scroll down and try to find the school with the name that starts with S or whatever it is that I'm looking for. In other words, just in brief, it's an extremely unfriendly system for a student to try to find out anything out about schools. And I was hoping with this new IT system that would be addressed, and I don't know whether it's going to be, but that's certainly something that needs to be. And just one other comment on that, and that is when you're looking for, let's say, a program about computer coding, for example, I think now with the liaison between OSAR and community colleges and so on, it would be very helpful if there were lists not just of the schools under the Bureau's authority, but community colleges that offer those programs at least. And maybe, you know, maybe you can't do it for all the state universities, but at least do it for the community colleges, and then a link over to wherever that information is under the community college website. So anyway, that's just a real concern I have. And the other one is it's not clear to me from what information is provided so far what historical data is going to be included. There was a mention of 7 years back of some data. I'm not sure what data. And 7 years isn't even as long as the Bureau's been in existence. And we know we have information about owners of schools who schools may have had problems, disciplinary actions, judgments against them, and so on, that are there from about 1990 forward. And I'm concerned that we don't have a full-bodied transfer of information from the old system into the new. So those are some of the concerns I have. And I realize, Robert, that's not necessarily all in your bailiwick, but it seemed like the appropriate time to raise them.
Thank you for your comments, Margaret. And I welcome your the information that you've put together, your kind of wish list, if you will. I know that we've talked about this in previous meetings as well. And I think Sean O'Connor, the manager of the IT system project, had mentioned that we are working on the school lookup system, basically as kind of a part of this overall IT project, because we'll have more data available. And you're accurate, your comments are accurate about the organization of the data and the availability of the data. And so as part of this project, we're working to get that information out. But again, if you want to share that, your kind of wish list with me, hopefully we're already working on some of that stuff, but certainly we're welcome to it, or we would welcome your comments.
I guess then the other question related to that is, do you have any sense in this extended time frame of when you would first start having at least a test run or something up related to the lookup, as you were referring to it, school lookup?
Are you asking for some dates or milestones?
Sure, whatever you can give me.
Well, I can't really give you anything at this point, just because the all of the data has to be entered into Connect first before we can make that link to our website. And so that's kind of what we're working on right now. So once the data migration is complete, then we can create a functionality for that information to go to our website. And as you said, we're working to organize it a little bit better, so it's so the information is kind of all together instead of scattered the way it is right now.
In connection with that, I had mentioned before, and just a little clearer explanation of it. If you go onto a website like, say, Consumer Reports, and you want to check out 3 different refrigerators or whatever it is, you just click on the ones you've chosen to compare, and the information about them pops up in a side-by-side fashion. And that would certainly be a very helpful kind of functionality to have if it can be done.
Sure, thank you.
Margaret, would you'd offer to circulate your suggestions to the committee? And Debbie, if you agree, I think that would be appropriate. I'd love a chance to look at that list as well.
I absolutely, I do agree. I think, whether it's related to the IC system project as currently conceived, or whether a separate endeavor, I think all of the challenges you brought up are very well taken. And so would absolutely love to see them.
As I said, I did it in sort of note fashion, so it's very informal looking, so please accept that. But I think the gist of what I'm asking you should be there. I'll send that around after the meeting. I'll take that back. I'll send it to Richie, and then he can distribute it.
Thanks, Margaret. Does anybody else have any comments from the committee on the IT system project update? All right. Thank you, Robert. Moderator, can we open the floor to public comments about item 5A?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 5A, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, we do have a request for comment from Angela Perry. So Angela, I will enable you to unmute yourself in just a moment. Please remember you'll have 3 minutes and I will give you a 30-second warning. So Angela, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go, you're unmuted.
All right, good morning, panelists or members of the advisory committee, Chair Cochran or Chief Cochran, and especially a warm welcome to Senator Roth. So lovely to have you with us. And I am Angela Perry, Associate Director of Policy and Advocacy at the Institute for College Access and Success, TICAS. So thankful for the opportunity to issue this comment and really appreciate all of the updates on this IT system. I have a few brief comments. First, really excited to see that we are making progress on all of these things, and especially excited to see that students are able to file their complaints online. I have done a little bit of poking around in that system, and it would be wonderful to know more about the student experience and any assistance, any tracking, anything that happens after a student hits submit on that online complaint. I know enough about it by looking at the online system, but obviously don't have a complaint to submit myself, so don't know anything about what the student experience is after hitting submit. So it would be great to learn more about that part of the IT system. And I would also, my other comment is that I would echo Ms. Ryder's comments around the data that is shared with students and made available to the public. I also absolutely recognize that there will be additional changes and additional work that is done in light of the state's investment in Bureau data collection from AB 1340, as well as for the Cradle to Career data system. And that investment made in the budget this year, very appreciative and really looking forward to the Bureau having the additional capacity and support to collect data. I just want to offer that TICAS would love to be a partner as that data system and as those data systems and public systems are created. It is really essential that the data is shared in a way that is useful and accessible to students. And so if there are ways that TICAS or other partners can be helpful in making sure that the student experience, the user experience is a useful and helpful one, we would love to be helpful in that. And
30
again,
seconds.
just want to wrap by saying thank you again for the opportunity to make comments and look forward to more discussion today.
All right, our next request for comment is from Beverly May. So Beverly, you should be able to unmute yourself now, Beverly.
Hello,
right.
I thank you for taking my question. I understand that there are some other boards that are also having IT projects going on, and I wonder if the $13 million is only for the BPPE project.
Thanks for your question, Beverly. Just a reminder that the public comment period is really not for question and answer. So if you want to submit your question to the Bureau via email, they can provide an answer to you, but we're not supposed to do it during the meeting. So we've lodged your question, and you can address it directly with the Bureau.
All right, this is a moderator, and Ingrid, I'm going to check with you to see if you have a comment on agenda item 5A, the IT system project. All right. So Ingrid, you can unmute yourself if you have a question about the IT project.
I'm sorry for the interrupt. I would like just to know if you actually want to talk about the SB 803 law for cosmetology and barbering.
All right, so that is the end of requests for public comment. Would you like us to go ahead and close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
All right. Thank you for your comments, everyone. On to item 5B, annual report update.
So there's not really a ton to update since our last committee meeting. I think I mentioned the school performance fact sheet workshops that were ongoing. They seem to be pretty successful so far. We have one final workshop scheduled for November 16th. If you go to the website under annual reports, there's a link to BPPE workshops, and you can find the registration link there. We've had 55 institutions submit their annual reports out of 921. The deadline, as you know, is December 1st to submit the annual report. And we anticipate getting a lot of annual reports over this 30 days, this next 30 days. Also wanted to mention that Chrisia Thorsel, the annual reports unit manager, and her team are also working on a workshop for the annual report, which we hope to have hopefully next month available for folks to help them get through the annual report. And that is my report for the annual reports unit.
Thanks, Robert. Does anybody have any questions or comments from the committee regarding the annual report?
Hi, this is Margaret, and I have a couple of questions. One question that I had is I was looking at the Silicon have never filed an annual report.
Is everyone having trouble hearing Margaret, or is it just me?
We're having trouble
I don't
hearing
understand
yourself.
her question.
It looks like her internet is like in and out or something because she's got a little
I'm
bandwidth
sorry,
alert
the
thing
audio
coming up.
broke up a little bit. Were you able?
You keep cutting out, Margaret. I think we're getting like every fifth word.
Yeah, things seem to be breaking up. I'm not sure. Did you hear my question?
No.
No, didn't. Sorry, Margaret.
Okay. Yeah, you're breaking up also. Is this any better? If not, I'll try the phone.
You're coming in clear right now. Or you were. Now you're frozen again.
Okay, let me try that again then. I was questioning whether there are schools that have never filed an annual report, and if so, how many and which ones?
I do not know that answer off the top of my head, Margaret. Sorry, I'd have to look at a report, annual reports unit.
That would be great if we could get that information. I was surprised to see that. I think if I'm correct, I didn't see that they had filed any annual reports. See, I had a second question, which I've now forgotten. Thank you. I guess we'll wait till that information, but it seems to me the failure to file an annual report might be something we want to think about in looking at whether we need to revise the priorities for inspecting or investigating a school.
Thanks, Margaret. Does anybody else have any questions or comments about the annual report update? I actually have a question. Robert, I have a couple of clients who have gotten some advice on how to calculate some of the data that is different than what they've been told before, so they're kind of adjusting their reports. Can schools go back to prior years and update data now that they know that the advice is that they maybe calculated it differently than the Bureau expected? Can they update their data reported from last year so that everything on this performance fact sheets will match? Or is it you just kind of have to live with what you got?
They can update the data. They need to go through the annual reports unit to do that. But yes, they can update their data. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, then I think we can open the floor to public comment about the annual report update, item 5B.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to make a comment about agenda item 5B, the annual report update, please type. I would like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand side of the screen. We are displaying instructions for your reference. And just as a reminder, since we are just taking comment, not questions, if you do have a question, please feel free to email it to bppe@dca.ca.gov, and they will be happy to receive it. All right, I'm seeing no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, next up on the agenda is 5C, Quality of Education Report. And I think it's still you, Robert.
It is still me, indeed. So for the benefit of our new folks, Senator Roth, the Quality of Education Unit, as the term implies, deals with educational quality. The team consists of 5 education specialists, an office technician, and an education administrator. That's me. We review the educational programs of most applications for approval to operate, as well as most applications for renewal of approval to operate. We review all applications for change in method of delivery, of instructional delivery, that are not approved by means of accreditation. We also review all applications for change in educational objectives, with the exception of approval by means of accreditation schools. We attend administrative hearings as subject matter experts for schools that are denied an approval or a renewal. We also monitor all institutions that are provisionally approved to offer degree programs. And with that comes a host of different duties and responsibilities. Education specialists often assist other units, the compliance inspection unit and the complaint investigation unit, with issues that involve educational quality. Sometimes there are just questions that we provide responses to. Other times we actually accompany the investigator or the inspector in their duties out to the school. QEU also periodically meets with other boards, bureaus, and licensing or program oversight entities to make sure that we understand each other's laws, regulations, and responsibilities where it applies to the review and the approval of those educational programs. So the first chart that I'll talk about is page 23. This is a chart that shows the number of SB 1247 institutions that have achieved accreditation and the accreditor that they chose. Again, SB 1247 was chaptered back in 2014, and it requires all institutions in California offering degrees to be accredited. So as you can see by the chart, WASC Trax and DIAC are our top 3 accreditors. And then the next page, page 24, is just information on our SB 1247 institutions. The first group are the schools that are required to become accredited by 2020. As you can see, there are 6 schools that are on approved extensions right now. Currently, our law says that schools can have up to 2 years of an extension, which would bring them to July 1st of next year. And the second group of schools are the provisionally approved schools. These schools were approved to operate after 2015, and we have 32 of those schools currently that we're monitoring toward achieving accreditation. They also included the number of institutions since 2015 that have had their degree programs suspended as related to the requirements of 1247. And that is the end of my report for quality of education.
Thank you, Robert. Anybody from the committee have any questions or comments for Robert about item 5C, quality of education report? All right, hearing none. Moderator, can you open the floor to public comment about that item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If any member of the public has a comment on agenda item 5C, please type. I would like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no request for comment at this time. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to agenda item 5D, compliance and discipline report. I think oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm just going to jump in very quickly. I think that at our last meeting, one of the staffing changes at the Bureau we talked about was Beth Danielson's departure. Beth Scott's departure, and the fact that, that we were filling in with Jason Alley, who was one of our compliance managers. He wasn't able to be at our last meeting, but he is here today. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to introduce you to Jason.
Welcome, Jason. Thanks, Deb. So just housekeeping on this one, just for ease of public comment, we'll do 5D Romanettes 1, 2, and 3, and then do public comment after 5D is complete. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jason to take it away.
All right. Good morning. Thank you for the introduction, Debbie. I appreciate it. Thank you for the welcome. Good morning. I'm Jason Alley. I am the acting enforcement chief, currently over compliance and discipline. So I will go to that update right now. I am on the page 26 of the meeting materials. As you can see here, we have completed to date, as of September 30th, 117 inspections, 61 of which have been announced, 56 have been unannounced. We are continuing to ramp up. We are back at full speed, and I want to thank the staff. They've been very helpful through very trying last year and a half. But we are happy to be back up at full speed now. Combined the inspections we've had in October, combined with the next 2 months, we will definitely surpass last year's total easily, I see. Let me see. Sorry, I lost my place in the notes here. And you can see there are 8 inspections that were canceled this year so far, up through September 30th. And as you can see underneath there are the reasons for cancellation could be that the school was closed prior to the inspection, improperly closed, meaning that they didn't notify us in advance. They may have surrendered approval. They may have refused to allow the inspection to take place, which would result in further action, of course. They may have not been at the physical location listed in sale, meaning that they did not notify us of an address change, or they may have mistakenly believed that they did not need a physical location anymore, having gone to fully digital distance education, or their renewal to operate may have been denied. The remainder of this page and the following page are further breakdowns of this information, including the outcomes of the inspections, whether they be notices to comply or enforcement referrals. And then moving on to discipline on page 28, statements of issues are schools whose application for initial licensure has been denied. We currently have 3 of those at the AG. And the column 2021 there is just the individual actions taken in that time period. Moving on to page 29, accusations, which are pleadings for schools that are already licensed. We currently have 8 of those at the Attorney General's office being actively worked on. And again, the column 2021 is just the individual actions taking during that period of time. Sorry, I'm a little more nervous than I thought I would be. And lastly, moving on to page 30, citations issued. As you can see, we have issued 170 citations as of September 30th this year. And I just want to also take a moment to thank the staff for compliance as well as discipline for being so helpful during this time period. And also one extra note on compliance. We are happy to say that we are very, very close to finally having our WebEx compliance workshop ready to go. That should be able to be offered to the public very soon. So I believe that is everything I had to say. So any questions?
Great job, Jason. You didn't need to be nervous. Okay, open it up to the committee for questions for Jason.
I have one question, Jason. Congratulations on rebounding and getting back to sort of a normal pace, which relates to my question, what is normal? So if you look at the 2019 numbers, there's obviously a large increase over previous years. Do you have a specific goal in mind? And Debbie, this might also be related to your quantified goals, like as part of the strategy. What's the picture in the cookbook for 22, which God willing will be normal, right? Or 23 and beyond.
Yeah. Well, normal would be, we need to meet the mandate, of course, which is at least 2 inspections for every approved school in a 5-year period. At least one announced and one unannounced. So that is definitely normal, that we need to do at least 2 of each during every 5-year period. The 2019 numbers, it's kind of a shame because as you can see there, we had just really, we had a great year in 2019, right before, of course, the pandemic hit, which kind of sidelined us because of travel restrictions. So, it's kind of hard to say, but normal is definitely at least meeting the mandate. And we just look forward to seeing the number continue to climb. Is that helpful? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Jason, this is Margaret, and no reason to be nervous. Just, we're trying to get information, you're trying to give it to us. So I had one question on the inspections canceled this year. Of those 8, how many of those, if you know off the top of your head, were because the school refused to allow the inspection?
Actually, 0. That has happened before, but that has not happened this year.
Okay, great. And the other question I have is, do you have the information to show whether there are any approved schools that have never been inspected since the Bureau came into being? And if you don't have that off the top of your head, I'd like to hear that for the next meeting.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Any schools that have not been inspected since when? Oh,
Margaret, you're muted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the Bureau came into being around 2008, something like that. I'm sure somebody there would have the number.
2010.
The year. What?
2010.
2010. Okay. So yeah, since 2010, and again, the reason I asked that is in looking at Silicon Valley University, it looked as if there hadn't been inspection until after, I don't know whether it was ACICS was dinged by the feds or whatever, but there had not been an inspection in that whole time period as far as what's reported on the website. So it'd be helpful to know if there's any other schools in that situation, because it seemed to me, again, maybe we need to prioritize some that have never been inspected if there are such things. Thanks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, awesome. Thank you, Jason. We can open the floor to public comment on agenda item 5D.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 5D, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Thank you, yes.
You're welcome.
All right, so moving on to agenda item 5E, complaint and investigation report.
I'll jump in very quickly here as well. I just want to say, Jason, Jason thanked the staff, and I just want to also, thank him for stepping in. It's not an easy role to step into these kind of out of class positions and really help the team, but he has been essential to, keeping the team going and making a concrete plan for us to meet our mandate. So that is great. And the same is true for Clarissa Serrato Chavez, who you all saw last meeting too, but she also is filling in the absence of Beth Danielson, who departed as well at the end of July. So really want to just give a huge shout out to both Jason and Clarissa for stepping up in the way that they have. Their work has been essential.
Thanks, Deb.
Debbie.
And thank you,
Debbie.
Jason and Clarissa.
Thank you, Debbie, as well. So as Debbie said it, my name is Clarissa Serrato Chavez, and I'm one of the complaint investigation managers. I am currently the acting chief over our unit. I'll be providing the investigation unit stats beginning on page 32. So the first chart on page 32 is a comparison of the number of complaints received as of the end of the third quarter of 2021, along with the previous 2 years. We received a total of 641 complaints from January through September. There was a slight uptick in the number of complaints received in the third quarter, and as of yesterday, we've received 739 complaints. The second chart on this page shows the number of external versus internal complaints received during the first 3 quarters, as well as the previous 2 calendar years. Given that we still need to report the fourth quarter, I see our stats pretty much matching up with the previous 2 years. The third chart at the bottom left provides additional information received. As I stated earlier, we've received a total of 641 complaints filed against 379 different schools. As of the end of September, we received 86 COVID-related complaints and have closed 85 COVID-related complaints. We currently have 27 pending COVID-related complaints. The last chart on the bottom right represents the number of complaints received and closed for state authorized contracted schools. You can see we've received 36 and have closed 35, and we currently have 12 pending. Speaking of receiving of complaints, we previously shared that our new database includes a Bureau customized online complaint form that can be submitted with attachments in real time. This has helped streamline our intake process. I want to take this opportunity to recommend to anyone needing to file a complaint or wanting to submit a tip to use the Bureau online complaint form that can be found on our website. This is the most efficient method of submitting a complaint. The complaint form also has an option to remain anonymous if anyone has concerns or prefers not to disclose their identity. Also, before I dive into the closure statistics, I want to share that now that the state and schools have opened up more and everyone is adjusting to our new normal, that our investigators are traveling more and more each month to schools throughout the state based on the complaint allegations. I and my co-manager, Karen Borja, want to thank all the investigators for being flexible and continuing to be productive as we continue to adjust and improve our new normal. Also, the fact that everyone in our unit quickly learned how to use our new database that has allowed us to go paperless while still having a complete investigative report with its related attachments uploaded into the system has been a great success for our unit. If you would now move to page 33, which is related to our closure data. These three charts represent closure information. We closed 620 complaints from January through September. And as of yesterday, we've closed a total of 702 complaints on our end. Of those, 47 were referred to the discipline unit for further action. The first chart is a comparison of closures from this calendar year with the previous two. The second chart to the lower right represents the number of closed complaints for each month. And the third chart to the lower left represents the case dispositions for the 620 complaints that were closed during the first 3 quarters. You can see the number of complaints and percentages in each category. If you now can move on to page 34, this chart provides the number of days it took to close complaints. We were able to close 63% of our complaints within 90 days during the first 3 quarters of the calendar year. The second chart represents the top 5 closure reasons, which are not substantiated, no confirmed violation, consolidated case, referred to the discipline unit, exempt under 2,500, and state authorization contract unable to resolve. If you would now move on to page 35, which includes our pending data. The first chart is divided into 3 sections and provides numbers of complaints pending by their aging. You can see we had, at the end of the 3rd quarter, which was the end of September, we had 275 complaints pending. Of those, 183 were related to complaints from external students, and 81 of those were of the urgent priority level. The second chart on this page reflects the highs and lows of pending complaints over the various quarters from 2019 to September of this year. And as of yesterday, we have 292 complaints pending. The last section of my report on page 36 provides the detail of student impact. We were able to acquire $52,721 in refunds to students or to their federal student aid account. We were also able to help students acquire a copy of their degree, diplomas, proof of trainings. We were able to help students re-enroll in a program. Also, in some instances, we were able to help them retake a course at no additional cost or refer them to the Student Tuition Recovery Fund. Getting some students placed in their externship programs, as well as in some situations, having a school, update a policy for clarity and or compliance. This concludes my report. If you have any questions regarding the information I've shared today, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Clarissa. That's a great report. I'll open it up to the committee for any questions or comments.
Hi, Clarissa. This is Margaret. And I have a question on page 34, the second chart for the state authorization contracts unable to resolve. What happens to those then if you're unable to resolve those complaints?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well.
I'm sorry, let me sit a little closer here. Is this any better?
Yes, and I will also turn up my volume on my end.
Okay. On page 34, the second chart,
Yes.
the last entry, state authorization contract, unable to resolve.
Yes.
What happens to those when you're unable to resolve them?
So in some instances, the unable to resolve, and there is somewhat of a higher little bundle if you compare it to the case dispositions. In some instances, we actually have attempted to work the complaint, to reach a resolution between the institution and the student. But at the same time, if there's areas that we feel may be handled better by another agency, if it's maybe related to Title IV or something else, that then we will also, in addition to attempting to resolve the issue, we will also inform the student and also sometimes reach out to those additional agencies for additional, we may have questions or want to better understand their process, and then also make referrals. So there are instances that we've actually worked the complaint and at the same time referred the complaint to other agencies, and those situations would still fall into this bucket.
When you say refer to other agencies, would that include accrediting agencies or governmental agencies, or both?
It would be both. It just depends on whatever the allegation was and what we're dealing with. There's been instances where we've referred to the Student Aid Commission and USDE, and also the accreditor and other agencies. We basically research to provide all resources that we can to assist the complainant if we know, we're not able to reach resolution. But there has been instances where the school may offer something to the student and the student just decides, that that's not what they want to do. Therefore, although I had an offer from the school, I would still have to close the case as unable to resolve because the student does not agree to the resolution.
And are any of those state authorization contracts so far that you're aware of have been referred for further investigation?
According to our stats, right now we really only have one that we've referred from the onset, where as soon as that we came in the door and we reviewed it, although we would assign it to our contracted school analyst, that we knew everything on that complaint was basically totally non-jurisdictional. So I know on our records we have one that we referred officially.
I'm sorry, I don't think I explained myself very clearly. I mean, are there any that you have referred within BPPE for disciplinary action of these contracts?
Of the state contracted schools?
Right.
No.
But that is something you could do in the appropriate situation.
Well, I think I'll let Debbie, if you want to speak to this.
That's right. I'm sorry. I don't mean to put you on the spot when you're just getting started.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, we've kind of been researching this area, and I don't know if Debbie or Lynn want to speak to our authority over contracted schools.
I will speak briefly, and then we can see if Lynn wants to chime in as well. I think that, as Clarissa said, we've actually been exploring a number of questions related to this topic, and I think with hopefully it doesn't sound too much like a punt, but every situation is quite different, so it's hard to give a global answer. Lynn, I'm not sure if there's something more that you would add.
I wouldn't necessarily. If I understand the question correctly, you're asking whether or not the Bureau may refer these complaints or contracts for further investigation by the BPE. And the answer at a high level, without as Debbie said, every case is different, so we can't really get specific. But generally, yes, if there is a violation, that we can hold them to account to. But as you know, they're generally exempt schools, so they're exempt from a lot of our requirements.
Okay, thank you. And then I had one other question for Clarissa. I think Robert mentioned that you might have some more information, Clarissa, on what is going on so far with respect to the new IT system in breaking down some of the categories for complaints into more information, like unsubstantiated or not substantiated. 170 is a large number, so I had asked in the past if it's possible to break those numbers down to give us a better idea of why those are not substantiated, or non-jurisdictional as well, that kind of thing. I don't know if you have any information on that yet.
I can provide some information. So for like non-jurisdictional referrals to other agencies, we actually do have a drop-down menu where there's already a series of agencies that we could refer to. And then there's an option for an other. So if it happens to be an agency that we need to refer to that is not in our current drop-down menu, I have the option to select other and then type in the actual name of the agency. So for instance, the non-jurisdictional referrals to other agencies, some of those cases are closed at intake because they are totally non-jurisdictional to the Bureau. It may be something where we determine the school is exempt based on it being a public school, or them charging under the 2,500 and not accepting state or federal financial aid. But as far as the 170 where we're speaking to, not substantiated, no confirmed violation, this is an area that we do want to explore to break down further, because there is a lot of different scenarios that fall under that bucket. And I think as we're able to continue to progress and refine our system, we will be able to do that. We have to, basically take some thought of what are we seeing coming in the door, and then create the descriptions. And then I also know you provided, or you will be providing, some feedback to Richie. So we'll definitely take a look at that and see if that would assist in some of the breakdown. We also really haven't had the opportunity, for instance, Debbie and myself, to go over all of our statistics to determine, how can we make this better, more efficient, and, something that's of importance and user friendly for the public as well as the committee members. So I as we continue to progress, that we will be able to do this.
That's very helpful. Thank you. And as I realize there's, a million and one things to be done, but I appreciate with the IT system coming on, this is the opportune time to do it. Thanks very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Clarissa, this is Joseph. I had one quick suggestion for you. On page 32, the table at the bottom of 32 that differentiates internal versus external complaints. If possible, could we add a third category there for the state authorization contracts? We've had some lengthy discussion about that, and I know it's a relatively new area for the Bureau. So could we get visibility on how many of the total complaints are coming from schools that are otherwise exempt, but have a contract for dispute resolution or a complaint investigation in order to meet state authorization requirements?
And you're saying the second chart on page 32?
Or just adding the second chart where you have internal and external complaints. If you could do state authorization complaints, right? Because you have the majority of your complaints, I'm assuming, are for approved schools, right? Or unapproved, correct, I guess. But,
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. I understand. Okay. Thank you. We'll take that into suggestion and see what we can come up with for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Anyone? All right, I think that concludes the committee's discussion. Thank you, Clarissa. We can open the floor to discussion of this for public comment.
Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. I have opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to make a comment on item 5E, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, Angela Perry would like to make a comment. So Angela, I will be giving you permission to unmute yourself. And please remember, you have 3 minutes.
All
All right,
right,
you're
thank you
unmuted.
so much, moderator, and thank you, members of the committee and Bureau staff. Really appreciate these updates, especially on complaints, which is an area that's really critical, both because it serves as one of the only ways that students can seek help and get resolutions, but also because complaints so often serve as a red flag or a warning for issues that the Bureau and other regulators need to be watching out for. So really appreciate these updates. Really excited to have all of these new staff members at the Bureau bringing new life and energy into all of this work. Really appreciated those updates. And Clarissa, to your point, as you and the Bureau work to think through how to make both the process and the information available more useful to the public and to students, if there are ways that student advocates like TICAS and other partners that we work with can be helpful, either in workshopping or helping to provide feedback on the process, on forms, on anything that has to do with sort of that student connection. It is TICAS put out a report last year on student systems. Found was that they're awful for students to even be able to file a complaint, to figure out how to do that and go through the process. And so if there are ways that we can help to make that system work better for students and therefore work better for the Bureau, we really would look forward to that opportunity. So I'm also happy to, if you haven't seen it before, share a copy of that TICAS report on complaint systems. So if that would be helpful, or if there's anything else I can do to be helpful, please let me know. And with that, just again, thank you for these updates. Really looking forward to getting more breakouts on these data so that we can better understand all of the types of complaints and the ways that we can make that system better. Thank you again.
All right, this is the moderator, and that is the last of our requests for comment.
Thank you. We can close it out.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is 5F, licensing report.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ebony Santee. For the newer members of the committee, I'm the licensing chief with the Bureau of Private Postsecondary. I work with 13 analysts, 3 managers, and 1 office technician, who I just want to take a moment to say I appreciate their hard work as they process applications and provide information and clarification pertaining to our laws and regs to not only new applicants, but currently approved entities. So on page 38 is a breakdown of our stats as of October 1st. We have received 194 applications. 8 of those were for new full approval applications. 10 were for applications for institutions approved by means of accreditation. We received 11 renewals for full approval institutions and 14 for schools renewing that are accredited. We received 29 full applications for changes, 43 for changes for schools that are accredited, 59 verification of exemption applications, and 20 out-of-state registrations. A bit of a breakdown about the oldest applications that we do have pending. The oldest application in the queue is from May of this year. That application is still currently incomplete, so it's unable to be assigned for processing. The oldest full app that we have under review was received in January of 2019. That application is currently with our Quality of Education unit. I know that they have sent a response, and as further update, the institution as of the end of September requested an extension to submit information. That was due by October 26th. I'm not positive if that has been received yet. As far as the oldest renewal application that we have under review, it is from 2017. However, there are various discipline issues and other pending actions possibly taking place. And the median date of the full apps in our queue are from July of this year. For a breakdown of locations in schools, we have 960 main locations, 357 branches, 510 satellites, which gives us a total of 1827. Of those, there are 409 that are approved by means of accreditation. 520 of those are maintain a full approval. And actually, to clarify, not all of those are non-accredited. There could potentially be schools that are accredited but hold full approval for various reasons. There's one conditionally approved, and we have 30 provisional approvals. And as of May 1st, we have 75 approved out-of-state registered schools. So it is I did condense this month. As you can see, it's a little bit different, but it's basically all of the raw data that we had in the other pages on one page. So hopefully that makes it a little simpler for everyone. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thanks, Ebony. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the licensing report before we open to the public?
I have a question. I'm not sure this is the appropriate place, or whether Ebony, you should have to answer this, but as I recall, once somebody has filed an application, an existing school, they can continue to operate as long as they file the application on time. And if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, that would mean that this school, for example, that has discipline issues has, been operating since 2017, even though not having met the standard for renewal at this point. I'm just wondering if I am correct, if that's something that we need to look at for a revision in the statute or the regs. And I don't know who's the person to answer that, or if this is even the appropriate time to ask it.
Yeah, so you are correct that if a school submits their renewal in a timely manner, that they do can operate while we process that application. This particular application has a lot of issues, including some legal things happening. So I would not say that that's the case for this one without getting into too much detail. But in general, if there is a renewal submitted in a timely fashion, the institution can continue to operate, if that's helpful at all.
That's helpful. And I guess my question about whether we should look at that for changes is something for a future topic. Thanks.
Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions for Ebony? All right, I'll take that as a no. Thank you very much, Ebony. We can open the floor to public comment on agenda item 5F.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, I don't see any requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ebony. Okay, so moving on to item 5G, our OSAR report. I think I saw Scott in the queue, so I'll turn it over to the OSAR folks for their report.
Thanks, Kate. I appreciate that. This is Scott Valverde, Chief of the Bureau's Office of Student Assistance and Relief. So welcome to Senator Roth and any other new folks that we have here today. I appreciate you being here. Because of some new sets of eyes and ears, I will take a step back, as some of the other chiefs have done, and give an overview of what OSAR is and what we do briefly before we go into the actual report on the charts that have been provided on page 40 and 41 of the handout. So again, in OSAR, we are charged with providing assistance to students and prospective students of post-secondary institutions here in California, and we do so in a variety of different ways and in a couple of different components of our program. One of which are closed school outreach and closed school related services that we provide to students who have been impacted or are potentially going to be impacted by school closures. And that takes the form of workshops, case management, one-on-one meetings with students, virtual meetings and convenings in this COVID era. Helping connect students with outside resources that can help them in terms of whatever that specific impact may be for them in a closure, whether that be transferring units to another school, having their VA benefits reset, getting their federal loans discharged, private loans, next level of career exploration given the closure, et cetera, et cetera. So we do any and all of those things, like I said, in a variety of different modes. We also do informed choice outreach. I use that clause, informed choice, right out of our duties in the statute that created OSAR. And we do that in a variety of different ways as well, in terms of web resources, some of which are captured on our website. I was paying close attention to Margaret's comments about the Bureau's efforts to assist students and using tools that are available and data that is available. So I also, like several others mentioned, look forward to seeing your recommendations in that area, Margaret. We're already doing a lot of that with what we have externally and also on OSAR's website and just through our staff's experience. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. And like I said, look forward to doing more in that area. Let's see, we also do college fairs. We do workshops on military installations. We do events that we put on ourselves and convene and deliver. And then we also have several outreach partners that we work with and provide outreach for prospective students in that space as well. And then the last component, I guess, would kind of be like an all sort of encompassing, just sort of, whatever else the student needs kind of heading, case management, individual assistance for students based on whatever need they bring to the table when they reach out to us or respond to our outreach efforts. So whether it be helping with a STRIF application or helping with a federal loan discharge application or finding and accessing their transcripts. Last meeting, for those of you who aren't here, we talked about our efforts working with enforcement and a bankruptcy trustee attorney to obtain records from a school who was not serving in the custodian of records in a compliant way. So we took those records into the Bureau's possession and facilitated that process so that students would have access to those records. Like I said, helping students with career or job search efforts. We've engaged in several outreach campaigns related to new legislation that could impact students. AB 1346 as an example. OSAR coming into existence as an example, as an awareness campaign. Changes to Corinthian students' eligibility. We've developed and worked with our public affairs on doing outreach campaigns. We do manage several social media sites that are OSAR branded, and we also have our own website as well. So there's a lot of work there. As we're going to talk about in the charts, we do a lot of data collection, which is an area that's definitely expanding. to sort of meet your needs by providing some more data for you, but also in our other legislative reporting requirements and internal reporting requirements, and just being able to capture what we're doing and figure out how to help students and populations. So yeah, those are kind of all the things that we do. I'm happy to report that we now do so as of last Tuesday, so hot off the presses, in a fully staffed program. So all of our current positions, allocated positions in OSAR, have been filled with staff for the first time since we came online on July 1, 2017. So there's a little bit more to that story just in terms of the development of the current authorization of those positions over time. But yeah, this is the first time where we've had a body in every seat that I have. So I'm pretty excited about that. Again, for the new folks, that is at that 8 positions. So 5 analysts, an OT, my manager, and then myself. So pretty much everything we've accomplished to date has been in the little engine that could kind of principle. We've definitely are proud of the work that we have accomplished with a pretty limited staff, and that's credit to my staff, credit to my manager, and also credit to the collaborative efforts, I would say, between the other divisions of the Bureau and external partners as well. But now, with these last 3 positions that we have filled over the last, few months here, we're definitely looking at increasing capacity, being able to do more than what you're seeing in these charts, being able to engage with students in new and different and hopefully expanded ways is definitely the expectation that I have moving forward now that we have a little bit more resources to do so. So that is OSAR in a quick little 5-minute nutshell. So in terms of the charts themselves, I'll be speaking to the information that is on page 40 and 41 of your handouts, labeled chart A, B, and C, that sort of match with some of those components I talked about. Our informed choice outreach efforts, our closed school outreach efforts that take the form of actual workshops, which again is a number that has been relatively low since COVID for a variety of reasons. And then our other closed school outreach efforts, email campaigns and engaging with students one-on-one and in a non sort of traditional workshop environment. Starting with the informed choice outreach. So this is all fiscal year to date, by the way, as well. So we always report fiscal year to date. That's how we've captured our data elements for other reporting requirements. So that's how we put this together for you as well. The thing you'll notice right away, for those of you who have been here for a while, and we've talked about this in the last couple of meetings, this is our first stab at providing some total students served data pegged specifically to individual events that we've participated in. So this is the first time we've provided this level of information. And then we have ideas and thoughts about potentially being able to provide even more granularity around those, and also some impact of these outreach events that are not necessarily captured in the current data element. But it's a starting point, and hopefully you appreciate that as we sort of build this this capacity and this sort of roadmap to be able to report transparently. So again, this is sort of phase 1 of that, but you can see in the far right-hand corner, for example, the CalTAP workshops are the number of service members who have logged on to an individual workshop that CalTAP put on that we have presented at. The Latino College Expo was a virtual college fair, and that was the number of attendees logged on to that event virtually. And the informational meeting for students who were impacted by the Independence University closure, it was put into this category just to kind of keep it separate from the BPPE approved school closures. This was one of the CEHE sites that closed in August, that was an out-of-state school that had a high percentage of its student population were California residents. And so we, given the fact that we were already doing an event for the other CEH school that did have a physical presence and had on-ground California students that were impacted in Chart B, which is the California College of San Diego, we jumped in and did provide some resources for the independent students as well. So, and to the tune, again, of 484 students served. So that would be the number of students that we reached out to via the email to those rosters that we got from CHE, and also who attended our event that we put on for them as well. You know, students served in the closed school workshop, of course, are the number of students who've logged on. And then for now, the other closed school outreach events where we haven't, for a variety of often, you know, logistical reasons or other reasons, didn't actually do a workshop when we are made aware of a closure, but still worked with students who were impacted remotely. For now, we're just providing to you the number of those successful email contacts from the rosters that we've gotten. We know that there's a larger impact there in terms of, you know, the STRIF applications that may come in beyond that, the number of transcript requests that the Bureau receives as a result of our outreach, the number of phone calls we have about other issues such as, you know, obtaining records from the custodian of records and transferability of units, et cetera, are things that fall kind of into to buckets that we have to report on in our annual report to the legislature or internally as well already. And so we're just going to have to figure out moving forward how to sort of vet that and present that to you in a way that will be meaningful moving forward. So so that's that. But it gives you an idea. Just looking at the sort of rolled up numbers, I think we served, even with those sort of qualifiers around the data itself, you know, we can comfortably say we fiscal year to date, which is, you know, just starting since July 1, we've engaged with about 1,000 students on the informed choice side and about 800 students on the closed school side. So off to a good start. And again, more staff being onboarded to be able to do more in that area. I think that's all I want to say. Oh, I guess the other thing I would say that's not captured here too, just in terms of this discussion of this painting a more full picture of our impact than we've discussed in the past, but still definitely not the full picture, would be social media engagements as well. So we're doing a lot more in that area. We're working a lot more actively in terms of what and when we post information on our various social media accounts. And again, fiscal year to date, we've had about 10,000 engagements, whether it be likes or views on our page or retweets or whatever it may be. And so that is analytics that we're gathering on an ongoing basis as well that kind of shows a kind of a key communication tool for us as well that isn't necessarily in these charts, but is definitely an impact that is out there. So I think that I covered all three. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Scott. Does anybody from the committee have any questions regarding OSAR before we open the floor? All right, then. Thank you. Moderator, can you open the floor for public comment on item 5G?
Thank you. The Q&A panel is now available. If anyone would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Scott. Then moving on to 5H, the STRIF report.
Good morning. My name is Yvette Johnson, and I'm the manager of the Student Tuition Recovery Fund unit. We're also known as STRIF. And just to give you a little background, the unit processes applications from students impacted by school closures or other events that deem them eligible for reimbursement from the STRIF. As Robert Bales mentioned earlier, we are in the development stages of an online platform for the processing of STRIF applications. We're excited about this, and we hope to be able to receive online STRIF applications in the near future. The purpose of the STRIF is to relieve or mitigate economic loss suffered by students that attended a Bureau-approved school. We have a small staff that works hard to assist these students. I want to thank the STRIF staff and others that have worked on the task force to process these STRIF applications as efficiently and as effectively as possible. Today, I'm going to be going over the STRIF statistics, which you'll find beginning on page 43 of the meeting packet. So as you can see in the first column, we have the number of STRIF claims received. I'll be focusing on the 21-22 year-to-date numbers. So as of this year, we've received 191 STRIF applications. For the STRIF claims closed, we've approved 29 STRIF applications. 19 have been deemed ineligible. 9 have been denied, and 50 we've been unable to contact the claimant. So that's a total of 107 claims that have been completely processed so far this year. For current STRIF claims, we have in our queue, which means that the claims have not been assigned to an analyst to process yet, 820 claims. There are 170 claims under review by analysts. There are 157 claims waiting for a response from the student, which means that the claim was incomplete, so we had to reach out to gather more information from the students. There are 238 claims that the analysts have reviewed and have made a recommendation and that are pending approval or denial. As we move on to the next section, we have the STRIF claims approved for payment. So far this year, we have approved $254,000 and $254,314.86 in STRIF claims. And before a STRIF after we've approved a claim for payment, it has to go over to the state controller's office to be processed. And right now there are 11 claims waiting at the state controller's office for payment. At the bottom of the page, you'll see that we have the condition of the Student Tuition Recovery Fund. And right now the balance is at $15,428,439. And as you know, earlier this year, we changed the fee to 50 cents just so that we could begin collecting more money into the fund. We'll discuss that further in the regulation update section as far as what's going on with the fund and what efforts are being made to increase the amount of money we have in there. As you go to page 44, you will see the large impact closures. We've made a little change to the report. Before there were 2 different charts, we've condensed it into one chart that just shows you the current conditions of the large schools that have closed and the impact that they've had on STRIF. In a prior meeting, I was asked about the number of denials or ineligible claims for ITT Technical Institute. And a review of the data from those claims showed that approximately 65% of the claims were denied due to no economic loss from the student. When I say no economic loss, I mean that there were no out-of-pocket payments from the student. These students did not have private loans nor institutional loans. They had federal loans, and the payments, the money was covered by loan discharge. Another 30% of those claims were denied due to the claimant not being a student at the time of closure. This could be that the student either graduated or was not enrolled at the school within 90 days of closure. When OSAR came on board in 2017, they did an outreach to those ITT students. And as a result, we received a lot of STRIF applications from students that were no longer students but applied anyway. While we were not able to provide assistance through STRIF, OSAR was able to work closely with those claimants and provide information and resources on what they could do as far as trying to either get reimbursed or to recoup some of the monies that they spent on their education. So that ends the statistics for the Student Tuition Recovery Fund. Do I have any questions? Do you have any questions for me?
Of course, I have a question. This is Margaret. Kate, is it okay if I go ahead?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
I can barely hear you, Margaret.
I'm sorry. I don't know why. Is this better?
Better.
Okay. I keep moving too far away from the laptop. I don't remember. It seemed to me we used to get this information, but maybe I'm just confusing it with the applications or whatever. But can you give me an idea, or if not now, at the next meeting, how old are the oldest claims awaiting STRIF analysis and determination? And related to that is, in processing student tuition recovery fund claims, are you catching up, falling behind, or staying about even? And if it about even, that means about what's the time frame from filing a claim to getting it determined?
Okay, let's see. To start with your first question, we do have some claims that are 3 years or older, and that's due to some extenuating circumstances that I won't go into discussion on. But we also have claims that are between 2 to 3 years old, and those are dealing with the borrower's defense. So those are a lot of the Corinthian healed claims that we're waiting for determination from the U.S. Department of Education regarding their loan discharge, so that we can establish whether or not those students had any other type of economic loss. And as far as the number of claims we have and whether or not we're keeping up, back in 2020, and this will be a further discussion too when we talk about Silicon Valley, we received a large influx of claims from Silicon Valley, which was about 600 and something just from that, for 2020. It's about almost 700 for 2020. And then this year so far, we received 401 claims. So that kind of took us off kilter for a little bit, and we are working to process those. But there had been a larger number of claims out there. And back in, I want to say November or December of 2019, I believe it was, we started a task force, and we were able to have those numbers start coming down. And then that's when we got hit with the Silicon Valley and the numbers shot back up. So I would say at this point, we're keeping even as much as possible. And as you know, we have a very small, the STRIF team is very small. We have 2 dedicated analysts, an office technician, and that's why we enlisted the assistance of a task force to help us in processing some of these claims. So for the amount of work that comes in, I believe that the staff is doing a tremendous job.
Thank you. And thank you for the follow-up on the ITT question. That's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any further questions regarding the overall overview of STRIP?
I don't see any.
All right. So now we're going to move on to Silicon Valley. So in your packet, there's a memo from Bureau Chief Deborah Cochran, and the memo provides an overview of Silicon Valley and its impact on the Student Tuition Recovery Fund. As has been discussed in previous meetings, we have received numerous claims from former Silicon Valley University students. Since 2018, we have received 1,177 claims. Bureau staff have been working on these claims as well as managing claims from students that attended other schools. As stated in the memo, Silicon Valley University closed in April of 2018 and surrendered its approval to operate on February 24th of 2019. Of note is that when the school closed, it did provide refunds to those students that were in attendance within 120 days of the school closure. Some of the other issues that arose with Silicon Valley is that the school was accredited by ACICS, and in December of 2016, ACICS was derecognized by the U.S. Department of Education. In addition, the Bureau filed an accusation to revoke the school's approval. And another action that took place was that ACICS revoked the school's accreditation. Because of the school's issues with accreditation, many students were unable to find employment. Many had to restart their education at another school in order to obtain a degree that was recognized for further educational or employment opportunities. So many of the claims that we were receiving from students, these students were not in attendance at the school within 120 days of closure, but they still experienced an economic loss. The students that attended Silicon Valley University, which was a non-Title IV school, did not receive federal financial aid. The students paid cash, and as a result, the only relief that they received that they could get was through the STRIF. The memo that Chief Cochran put together also provides you with statistics of where we are so far with the Silicon Valley claims. And as stated previously, 1,177 STRIF claims have been filed from former students. 278 STRIF claims have been approved, which have totaled $5.1 million paid. The average amount of the claim is about between $18,000 and $19,000. We've denied 8 STRIF claims, and 891 STRIF claims are pending, and they have a potential payout of $16.5 million. So are there any questions?
Hello, Yvette. This is Joseph. I do have a number of questions. Can you characterize the 891 outstanding applications? Are they, have you been handling them in a first in, first out, or are they somehow categorically different than the 300 approvals? Like, did you go through the easy approves first and we can expect a lower approval rate going forward, or are they not distinguished, the two groups?
We did not distinguish them. We're doing it on a first in, first out basis because each one we have to look at individually. So we want to make sure that we're looking at all the facts, collecting all the information, because something that may look like an easy approval may not turn out to be an easy approval.
And so there's no categorical distinction between the 300 you've approved and the 900 you have yet to work through?
No.
And have we, I'm curious about the discretion of the Bureau to determine economic loss for graduates. You made reference to maybe graduates that weren't working in field. And so I'm curious, are any of the approved applications graduates of the institution?
Yes, some of them are, yes, they are graduates. And what we found is that due to the degree that they received from Silicon Valley, there was a decline in the value of the education that they received from Silicon Valley. And as a result, they had to start their education over.
And what are you using as the beginning date for that period of harm? Is it the removal of accreditation of ACICS, or the department's action, original action against ACICS? Like, what's your beginning point of the decline of value?
We're actually looking at when the Bureau took action against the school, when we started our initial investigation with the school.
Got it. And then you're not differentiating graduation or not graduation is not a criteria? You're assuming a decline in value for all students.
Yes, if they can prove that there's been a decline in the value of their education that they received.
Got it. And you're viewing them as individual claims, or are you viewing them as a class?
They're individual claims.
And if a graduate is working in field after having graduated, would that be grounds for denial of a claim?
Yes, because unless they have shown that they had to do their education over in order to be able to work in the field.
Got it. And so it would express broadly, I imagine, a shared sentiment among the advisory committee that there's a substantial financial liability in the future, given the fact that the 900 students are not differentiated. We would expect a reasonably high approval rate given the criteria going forward. And so there's a substantial liability ahead of us.
Yes.
One thing, if I may just jump in very quickly, I think, as Yvette said a couple of times, we are looking at each of these claims individually, and there are some very clear commonalities between them. As she said, one of the most striking ones, having looked at probably 50 or so of these claims myself, is that none of the students really seem to be able to find secure employment, and generally needed to transfer into a brand new degree program, into which very few, if any, credits transferred. So that's one of the commonalities, but we are looking at each of them individually, not as a class, as you had asked about, Joseph. And so I think in some cases, the timing of a student's economic loss might be, in terms of that triggering event, it might be the decline in quality of education. In others, it might be the loss of accreditation. So we have, we are looking pretty in depth at each of these claims, just on an individual basis.
Debbie, I'm sorry, Joseph, I was just going to ask if these are international students for the most part, wouldn't that be impacting their ability to get a job? I mean, is that being factored in, visa status? Like, are they going on to another degree program because they couldn't get a job because of their visa status? I mean, I think I would play that factor in because that could have a big impact on their employability.
Yes, we do take that into consideration. And that, the students are pretty honest about that as well, about their visa status.
I have a couple of questions, and again, I'm not sure where this is an appropriate point to raise it, but it seems to me that it would be worthwhile for the Bureau to do an analysis of the schools that are out there that are not getting federal funds that could cause another major hit to the STRIF. And again, I guess this relates to whether we need to kind of look at priorities, but I think it would be just to look and see what is out there. And looking at this school, it didn't look to me as if it had been inspected or filed annual reports or anything for it. It's been in business since 90 something, I think. And as I gather, when I looked more into it, it seemed like they were going along as a little school, and then all of a sudden, boom, they increased their enrollment gigantically so. And I'm presuming they did it without informing the accreditor or the Bureau. And so, there was no way the Bureau would realize there was this major possible hit there, or that the school might be declining suddenly in quality because they had suddenly exploded in size. So I'm just wondering if they might be good to have some kind of mechanism to kind of be looking at this, and in relation to schools out there that could cause a potential major hit. And the other thing, I guess, is I'm wondering for the future if there is already or could be some kind of what we used to call a clipping service, where there is a watch put on the schools that the Bureau supervises. So when news about them appears, the Bureau would get that news, so that if there is, for example, a story about them suddenly exploding in size, or the owners suing each other, or things like that, that might cause one to wonder what's going on here, that the Bureau could pick it up before it actually gets to somebody taking action against them. I think there's and I don't know that this is the particular school to look at, but I've asked before about, why is it that the Bureau is not knowing what's going on or the first to deal with schools like this. It seems to me that maybe not this school, because it is kind of different from most of the schools the Bureau supervises, but it would be a good idea for the Bureau to take these closed schools as they come along and do like an after analysis, or after, what do they call it, after operation analysis or something like that, to see, what went wrong. Was there anything that we could have done that we didn't do, and how do we fix that for the future? And this just kind of gives me that sense that, here, what were the red flags that were not picked up, and going forward, looking at some of the other schools that have closed, what were the red flags that weren't picked up soon enough to prevent this kind of catastrophic change? And when I looked at it, and the Bureau's accusation, I mean, the closure was not, or the lack of accreditation was not really the only factor. I mean, there were all kinds of things that they violated in the process. So anyway, that's just a thought for the future. And again, maybe this isn't the appropriate spot. And then one other final thing related to this, and again, it's not appropriate. It seems like the owners made off with millions and millions of dollars. And I'm wondering if there is any liaison with the Attorney General, district attorneys, anybody else, in trying to see whether any of that money is recoupable. I know apparently they're not citizens. I'm assuming they're residents, but I don't even know if they're still in the country, but just some things for looking at, I would say.
I'll jump in on some of those questions, Margaret. I think just on some of the specifics, you mentioned the clipping service. DCA does have a clipping service where they flag where licensees are mentioned in the press. You're making me realize I'm not exactly sure how the mechanics of that work behind the scenes and how routinely it's updated, but that's something for us to look into. More generally, I would just let you know that I think we do spend quite a bit of time, certainly since in my 6 months here, we've spent quite a bit of time kind of trying to understand what went wrong when we see students that have been harmed and whether we could have done more. So you've raised some very specific and good questions that relate to ones that we've been asking, but we'll definitely take them back and see if there's more, more thoughts triggered by some of your questions. Also, really appreciate you kind of the point you made around there's Silicon Valley University, and then there's also the broader array of schools. And that is also something kind of how exactly we are able to look at the data that it comes into us on a regular basis through annual reports or otherwise, and how we use that data kind of nimbly and dynamically is something that we've also been spending quite a bit of time working on these days. So I don't think we have anything to report on at this point with regards to that, but it is something that we might want to talk about at a future meeting, because it is something that we're really looking at to make sure that we are doing the best we can.
I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate you have not been there very long. And there, as I mentioned earlier, there are 1,000,001 things that need to be dealt with. And you can't do it all at once. But yeah, to the extent that some of these things can be beefed up as you go forward, that would be great.
I would like to recommend that maybe we take up in future discussion insight that might be applied to the statutory language around STRIF. This seems to me on its face to be a case where, wow, that's not what we had in mind originally, like when the law was originally instituted, given the preponderance of foreign nationals that were studying abroad, and then the STRIF that had, for many, many years had a substantial balance protecting California students. But I clearly see that the statute is written in such a way that residency programs are qualifying for that. And so I do think it would be useful to have a fresh eye review of the statute itself. And again, I'm fairly confident that this use case, in which $25 million are paid out in this circumstance, probably wasn't what Congress had in mind, or what the legislature had in mind when they passed the STRIF. So some sort of bounds or protection around this kind of specific use case.
Thank you, Joseph. We'll make note of that. And thank you for all your comments, Margaret. Really appreciate them. Very helpful.
Thank you, Yvette. And I just want to point out that I once had a job as the clipping service for a company where I literally read magazines and cut out clippings. So that gives you a sense of how old I am, but also the fact that we still call it a clipping service, even though it's probably a Google alert. I just find that funny. But anyway, thank you for the report.
Thank you, Kate. I don't even know what you call that now. That it's
I
not
don't either.
clip anymore.
I know there's not like I literally would cut them out and then measure them, and they would measure the amount of space they took up. So there you go. So thank you, Yvette, for the report. I do agree with a lot of what the rest of the committee is saying, that this is, for all of the closures that we've had and all the STRIF that we've managed over the years, I don't recall there ever being a situation like this where we have students who had no other form of aid. So everything would conceivably be a student's economic loss as opposed to, different kinds of Department of Ed loans and things like that. And then also the phasing in of how far back to go. I think it's a very unique situation, and it does put us in a position of maybe having to look more closely at all of this. So does anyone else in the committee have any comments or questions on item 5H before we open the floor?
I'm sorry, that just triggered something. Yvette, when you were pointing out in your statistics, you show claims denied. If for future reference, again, as your IT system gets improved, I think it might be helpful to have a category that said claims denied because they received reimbursement elsewhere, showing that they got their money back from the federal student loans, because that's a lot different than just saying, tough luck, you didn't get anything from us or anybody else.
Okay, well, look, we can look into that for the system as we're in our development stages. You really don't understand how exciting this is.
No, we do know. Thanks so much, Yvette. I think with that, we can open the floor to public comment on the STRIF section of the agenda.
All right, this is a moderator, and I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, Angela Perry would like to make a comment. So Angela, you'll have 3 minutes, and you should be able to unmute yourself.
All right, thank you so much, moderator. Thank you, members of the committee, and thank you, Bureau staff, for those great updates. I actually have a quick update I meant to give after the OSAR update, so I will do that very briefly. My only note there was first to say how much we appreciate TICAS and other student advocates, how much we appreciate OSAR's work to do that outreach. The only thought that we had was that it might be helpful if, when you do those outreach sessions to students at closed schools, if it's possible to record them and make them available after the fact, perhaps by posting them on the OSAR website. It might be helpful to students that aren't able to attend live in person. Now shifting to STRIF updates, really appreciate all the information that was shared, both generally about STRIF and specifically about Silicon Valley. Really appreciate all the thoughts that were shared. There was a mention of potential legislative changes to STRIF that might be appropriate, and just wanted to say that TICAS has done some work on that previously. We put out a report several years ago. I want to say maybe even 2019. Could even have been 2018. Time is slippery. But we put out a report on some additional changes that would be great to see in the STRIF program. And so would be happy to be partners in thinking about any of those, and happy to share that report if it would be helpful. Also just really appreciative of all of the time and energy that we know goes into these reports, and all of the work that the Bureau is doing to try to make sure that students are well served. So just wanted to express some appreciation. I know I'm at time, so I will stop, but I really appreciate it. Thank you again for the opportunity to comment.
All right, this is a moderator and I see no further comments or requests for comments. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for your very great input and feedback. So we just ended item 5, and I know we have both Senator Roth and Zima both need to leave at 12:30. So, but I do think maybe a 3-minute bio break would be appreciated by many. So it is 11:46. Let's come back at 11:50. We'll just take a 4-minute break so you can grab a coffee, and then we'll get back and try to power through as much as we can before we lose a couple of our members. So with that, I'll see you in now 3 minutes. And there she is. Okay. I think we have everybody back from our mini break. Thank you. So moving on to agenda item 6, which is the status update regarding the regulatory packages that we have going on. And Deb, I don't know if you're going to do this update or if it's going to be David or.
Hi,
This
Kate.
is actually, there we go. I was going to say, I'm thinking Yvette is back. So Yvette's going to kick us off.
I'm going to do the discussion on A, and then David will do the rest of them. Okay, so as a follow-up to our previous conversation about the Student Tuition Recovery Fund balance, as you guys can see, the fund is now below the 20 million, which requires us to begin collection again. In February of this year, we increased the STRIF fee to 50 cents per $1,000 of tuition, and previously of institutional charges, but previously from 2015 until February of this year, there was no charge for STRIF. So that increase, we use that increase to help fill up some of the gaps in the fund. We estimate that at the current charge of 50 cents for the STRIF assessment, that it would get us, we would increase the fund by about $1.4 million using the 50 cents method. A continuous monitoring of the fund found that this was not enough to keep that fund afloat, and that based on the number of STRIF claims that we have and the projected payout, the fund would be depleted in early 2023. So we had staff do some calculations, and based on that, we found that at $2.50 per $1,000 of institutional fees would get us to a point of about $7 million per year. So we've decided that beginning the second quarter of 2022, which will be April 1st, we're going to raise the STRIF assessment fee to $2.50. And, you know, with the raising of the fee, the goal is to ensure that we have enough money in the fund to process our current claims as well as any claims that we receive in the future. So, and I know with our fee increase in February, it was kind of in the middle of the quarter. So that's why we wanted to make sure we were providing the institutions enough time to get all of their documents and systems in place so that they can add that $2.50 fee to their documents. The paperwork is moving forward to the Office of Administrative Law, and we will give you up and we will provide updates to let you know when it has gone through. And that's all I have on the STRIF fee increase. Any questions?
No, but I can tell you the schools will be, I mean, not happy about the increase, but happy to know about it this far in advance. So they
The
have some time to
notification, yes.
prepare.
We never want that to happen again.
Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts about item 6A on the committee? All right. Well, I think we can finish agenda item 6 and then before we go to public comment. So I'll, I think, go to David for B, C, and D.
Thank you. Hopefully this will not require much discussion. Just some updates on some of the regulatory packages. But I'm David Dumble. I'm the legislation/regulation manager at the Bureau. The verification of exempt status package, this was submitted to DCA for legal review on July 28th. We have received the package back on October 30th with some revision requests. We are addressing those revisions as quickly as possible, and we're hoping to turn this around and get it back to DCA before too long. But we have received, at least we received it back from DCA. Moving on, does anyone have any questions about that?
No, I think you're good to go.
Okay, great. Next is to update the AB 1340 package. This is the collection of identification information about graduates so we can collect wage data. This package was completed and submitted to DCA for legal review on October 18th. And we're waiting to get that back. And after we get it back, we can then proceed with the administrative process through OAL. Questions on that? Okay.
I have a question, but it actually relates to all of them. Where in this does it advisory committee for comment, informal discussion?
David, were you able to hear Margaret's question?
No, I could not hear. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'll try.
Yeah, you were just cutting out a little bit, Margaret. I think the question was, where does the advisory committee review fit into this process? Is that the question, Margaret?
Right, on this chart, where should it be put in?
What we try to do is come to the advisory committee in the drafting process of the regulations, and then once it starts the formal process, we usually don't go back to the advisory committee unless there's a specific reason to.
Right. So where is that on? Where is that on this chart? Is that before pre-approved? After
I suppose it would be in the pre-review process.
It's in the
pre-approved. Yeah.
Certainly for the ones that we're talking about today, these are the ones that we have talked about at our last two meetings and where we've shared specific language and taken your feedback on that. So that was kind of, yeah, that was the pre-approval.
Okay, so maybe I'll just stick a thing in there that says to advisory committee.
Okay. And go back and the last one is the AB 1344, the out-of-state applications. We took the committee's feedback at the last meeting and made adjustments to the form. The package is now ready to go, except we're working with DCA budget on the Form 399. This is the form that requires us to estimate the fiscal impact and economic impact of the regulations. Once we finish working with DCA budget on this, the package will be ready to go for legal review to DCA. And that's the update.
All right, thanks, David. Does anybody on the committee have any questions or comments or thoughts on the regulatory package update? If not, we can open the floor to public comment. All right. Moderator, can you open the floor for discussion on this agenda item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no request for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
Thank you. All right. Agenda item 7, update discussion on recently chaptered legislation that impacts the Bureau, Senate Bill 802 and Senate Bill 607. I'll turn it over to the Bureau for discussion on this one.
And we have Greg Pruden from DCA here to talk about what happened in the legislation, and then I'll be able to say a few words about implementation.
You're muted, Greg.
Strangely, he does not look like he's muted, but we can't hear him.
This is the moderator. We did do a mic check previously and he was audible. Something Greg might want to try is clicking on the drop-down menu next to his microphone, clicking on settings, and increasing his input as well as output.
Can folks hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I have just slid everything on that output and input as far right as it would go, so hopefully that works, and
Loud
we can
and clear.
proceed. Okay, awesome. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Good afternoon. My name is Gregory Pruden. I'm a legislative manager with the Department of Consumer Affairs. Happy to be back with you today. Welcome to Senator Roth and other new members, and welcome to the members of the public as well. Going to start out by providing an update on Senate Bill 802. This bill, as I think most of us know, was the Bureau's sunset bill. We are grateful for the partnership with the Senator and his committee, as well as the rest of the legislature, to work together on SB 802 this year. It extends the act one additional year from January 1 of 22 to January 1 of 23. I'm just going to kind of run through a couple of the high level items that SB 802 accomplishes. In addition to extending the act, the bill authorizes the Bureau to take proactive action against institutions who commit acts that may result in harm to students. Provides several definitions in the act, including continuing education, educational program, and post-secondary education. Authorizes the Bureau to extend some of the accreditation timelines and deadlines that were originally put forward in SB 1247 several years ago. Expands the types of substantive changes that require Bureau approval. And related to the advisory committee, the bill requires the advisory committee to annually elect a chair and vice chair, prohibits a member from serving in either position for more than a combined 2 years, and requires the advisory committee to adopt reasonable rules for its conduct. This bill, as I mentioned, was chaptered last month and is effective Jan 1 of 22. Connected to SB 802, as again, that bill resulted from the Bureau sunset process, and because SB 802 extends the Bureau only one additional year to January of 23, the Bureau will be going through sunset review again in the spring. The committees have asked that the Bureau and other programs who will be going through sunset review next year under a 1-year extension, that they provide an update to the previously submitted report. And so DCA is in progress working with the Bureau and their staff on this update. It is due to the legislature January 5th of 2022. We would anticipate sunset review hearings happening probably around the same time frame as they have in the past, February, March, but more information will be forthcoming on that from the committees. So that's the update on SB 802 and sunset review. Another bill that pertains to the Bureau, it's a big bill, but it has a section that pertains to the Bureau, is SB 607. And as it relates to BPPE, this bill repeals Education Code Section 94904, which required students without a high school diploma or its equivalent to successfully complete an examination prior to executing an enrollment agreement. It also amends section 94909 to eliminate the need to include specific admissions requirements for these students in school catalogs. And the legislation also repealed section 94811, which defined these aforementioned students as ability to benefit students. Taken together, in sum, these changes will permit students without a high school diploma or the equivalent to enroll in private post-secondary institutions without having to complete the admissions prerequisite of passing an alternative entrance exam. These changes will go into effect on January 1 of the next year of 2022. And a student who is otherwise qualified and has a reasonable prospect of completing an instructional program but lacks a high school diploma or the equivalent will no longer have to pass what is known as an ability to benefit exam in order to enroll in this in their educational program. The Bureau has put out a sort of a statement or an FAQ, if you will, regarding this bill and the changes that I just briefly spoke to on its website. Would certainly encourage folks to review that more lengthier statement for additional information on the changes, the changes contained in SB 607. I'm happy to take any questions that committee members might have at this time.
Perhaps I'll just go through some of the implementation pieces, and then the questions might be kind of intermingled that folks want to discuss. So like I said, I wanted to give a high-level overview of some of our implementation plans for SB 802. I know, a lot of discussion was really pushed to next year, to where we would have more time for substantive discussion on larger changes. But that said, the bill really did include several programmatic changes to the Bureau's operations that we've been working to understand. I think some of the changes are ones that we can manage entirely internally through straightforward updates to our internal procedures or trainings of implicated staff. There are some of the other changes that will require some more extensive deliberation and planning, including the need to modify forms and other regulations. So one of those areas is the change to the definition of educational program. That change excludes programs under 32 hours of length that do not lead to employment. There's a lot of questions embedded in implementation there that we're trying to sort through right now. Another one is the addition of the 4 new events that require substantive change applications to be filed. Another one, of course, the forms will need to go through the regulatory process, and we need to consider what types of things we're looking for in those applications and promulgate regulations accordingly. So, internal conversation is currently underway, and as we're getting further along, we intend to hold some public meetings to be able to share what we're thinking and also get some early input from the field to solicit reactions and input on that before we would move forward with any sort of regulatory package. So you can expect that to happen either at the end of this year in December or just start of next year in January. So if that said, if there are particular issues or points that the committee or members of the public have in mind right now that you want us to be keeping in mind, even in this very early stage, we would welcome hearing those either in this meeting or by emailing our general BPPE email address. And then secondarily, I wanted to, of course, raise with this group the changes that pertain to the advisory committee. And of course, I think we're looking forward to discussion from amongst you all in terms of how we would like to see those implemented. We've put some thought into how those might be implemented for consideration. I think one of the changes, as Greg walked through, was the need for annual elections. So we want to get those calendared for a chair and a vice chair position. As we're thinking through timelines, feeling like as a general rule, elections at the last meeting of a year seem to make sense because they set the stage for the subsequent calendar year. But it didn't quite seem appropriate to calendar those for this meeting or agendize for those for this meeting since we hadn't really had a chance to discuss them. So as such, we propose holding elections at the February meeting, which would be our next meeting in 2022 for the 2022 year. And then going forward, we would hold elections at the last meeting of the year for the subsequent year. So that would be our proposal for your consideration there. And then secondarily, the SB 802 required that the advisory committee kind of adopt reasonable rules for its conduct. So, of course, we have a handbook, an advisory committee member handbook that was updated not too long ago. But we would propose to just put that on the agenda as well for the February meeting for consideration to ensure that that handbook reflects what the committee members would like it to reflect and whether changes are needed. So with that, I'm sure either Greg or I would welcome questions.
Debbie, maybe I can provide a little context.
Absolutely.
This is the sunset review for this particular bureau is sort of complicated because of the number of committees in the legislature that touch this. And so what we tried to do this last year in the midst of COVID, where we were dealing, because we had to postpone sunset reviews, as you may know, of other boards due to COVID the prior year, we had a lot on our plate, and it was a little too much to manage to try to coordinate with the administration, with both leadership in both houses, and with the 4 committees, 2 in each house, that have to weigh in on your operations and any changes to them, to really deal with the Bureau in a comprehensive way this past year. We intend to do that this next year, but in the meantime, we tried to accommodate all of the Bureau's asks and committee's asks, and that's what we did in the changes essentially that we did make. We have some fairly complicated issues, just to use the word twice, to sort of wrestle with next year. One is Bureau operations. We need to take a look at that since you all have been, in the process of operating since what, 2010. The landscape's changed a little bit to make sure that the operations tuned up and that you're focused and pointed in the right direction. We also need to grapple with funding issues, not just with this Bureau, but with many other boards inside the DCA, and how the funding arrangements have been, what perhaps they should be, the need in some cases for perhaps some general fund participation in light of the mission. And we're going to be talking about that next year. So I wanted to provide some context in case you were wondering why it was a 1-year sunset and why we didn't get more done this past year. But I can assure you that we will be fully engaged next year with you in trying to craft a sunset bill that gives you much more headroom. Hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much, Senator, and we certainly welcome and look forward to the continued engagement.
Thank you, Senator. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on item 7?
I have a question on change to 94837 that would exclude programs of 32 hours or less that constitute a single course, workshop, seminar, continuing education, or other instruction. It doesn't lead to employment. Now, I thought already that programs that weren't intended to lead to employment were not covered anyway. So I'd be curious to hear when we discuss this further, your thoughts on what that means. And then I think it would be helpful to have an analysis of how many existing programs, if any, there are that would fit this criteria that then might no longer be under the Bureau's supervision, or how many programs there are that are short enough, small enough, that one might wonder whether they would be claiming or changing from 35 hours to 32 hours, or saying their art program is now recreational. I'm just not quite sure I understand that, given the existing exemption for programs that are, I think it's called avocational or recreational in nature. And then the other question I have for the election is something about the combined total of 2 years. Does that mean no more than 2 years as president, no more than 2 years as your vice chair, or you're no more than 1 year chair and 1 year vice chair? I'm not quite sure I understand the combined 2 years, and I don't care. Just it's probably something to make sure that we're clear about.
Margaret, I'll just comment on your first comment. And I know that this is in discussion anyway, but right now an institution can be exempt based on having a vocational programs, but an approved institution cannot have exempt programs. So I think what this does is it allows an approved institution to offer a seminar or a weekend thing, or without having to get that program approved, without having to do fact sheets and enrollment agreements and everything else, because those are not programs that are the institutions like vocational programs. I think that was sort of the primary idea, but I think there's a lot more to it that Deb and the team are going to have to figure out. But I think that that's the difference between institutional exemption and a program exemption, which is something that didn't exist before.
That's the absolutely correct. And I would say, to some of the other questions, all excellent questions and ones that we are trying to get answers to right now. And I think some of them, there is no clear answer because some of it depends on how we define some of these things. So really trying to figure out what the landscape of programs we're talking about is and what the broader array of implications are for Bureau oversight and for schools. So like I said, we're trying to package some of these things up in a way that makes sense, so that way we can get feedback.
Anybody else? Questions or thoughts on item 7? All right, thank you all for the presentation and the input, and we can open the floor to public comment on this agenda item, please.
All right, the Q&A panel is now open. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. We'll give you a moment. All right, we have a couple of requests for comments, starting with Angela Perry. And again, Angela, you'll have 3 minutes, and you should be able to unmute yourself now.
All right, thank you so much, moderator, members of the committee, and staff. Angela Perry with TICAS. I really wanted to first express appreciation for Senator Roth's comments. I think that is incredibly helpful to have that perspective, and really looking forward to engaging with you and with the other members of the relevant policy committees in the next year. We were really pleased to see SB 802 pass this year and to see the Bureau reauthorized. And we are looking forward to working with the Bureau, with DCA, and of course with Senator Roth and Assemblymember Medina on finding ways to further strengthen and support the Bureau and to empower the Bureau to really be proactive in protecting students. So we will certainly share any ideas and priorities, anything that we can from TICAS and from any of our partners. We will share those as soon as we can, but we really look forward to the opportunity to work with and to support the Bureau and the legislature as we go through sunset review next year. So just really want to express appreciation and look forward to the opportunity to continue to support the important work that the Bureau is doing. So thank you again.
All right, our next request for comment is from Robert Johnson. And Robert, you'll have 3 minutes, and you should be able to unmute yourself. All right, Robert, you're unmuted.
California Association of Private Postsecondary Schools. I'd like to thank Senator Roth for taking the time to listen to the discussion today. I'd like to point out that virtually all the legislation that we're looking at with the Bureau and its regulations is essentially look-back legislation. All the reauthorizations have been essentially in reaction to things that have happened in the past. I'm hoping that this year we can kind of reset and look at the Bureau's mission for what it can be going forward and what it should be going forward. Our belief is that too many of the rules and regulations that have been passed were situationally specific and not really applicable to mainstream oversight and regulation. As a result, mission creep within the Bureau has resulted in lots of extra staffing in our belief, and obviously an unaffordable fiscal forecast. So we are hopeful that in the next couple of months that we can sit down with the legislature and see if we can craft something that makes sense and is affordable and actually provides the protections that California needs in an appropriate and reasonable manner. Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from Marcy. And Marcy, you should be able to unmute yourself now. And Marcy, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to take a moment and say that I was pleased to hear that the board is getting an opportunity to consider options for having unapproved programs for accredited schools, and wanted to share an example. We have a CPR class that we offer. We offer it as part of our curriculum in our dental program, and so we want to be able to open that up to others to enroll. So every year when we're doing the annual report, I have to submit the information on that. I have to fill out an student performance fact sheet. We have to do all of that for a course that's not going to, no one's going to get a job off of a 20-hour CPR course. It's very short. It's very brief. It's meant to lead to one little licensure, but it's not the same thing as something like a 1,000-hour cosmetology program. So I just wanted to share that we have courses like that. And so just hearing that the board is considering how to make that happen is really good news for us, because it would save us a lot of time on that giant annual report that we're already doing. So just wanted to say thank you for the legislation to put something like that in, and encourage the board to, work on that. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, and that is the last request for public comment on this item. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Okay, so we are at 12:22, and our next agenda item is very likely to go more than 8 minutes. And I know that we have both Senator Roth and Zima who are have to leave at 12:30. So I would like to suggest and see what the committee thinks about taking a break now for 15 or 20 minutes to grab something to eat. And when we return, Senator Roth and Zima will be gone, so we will not have a quorum. But I believe Debbie and the legal team have made the determination that we can still have discussion. We just can't, I think, vote. So I'll open the floor up to Debbie and the legal folks to kind of explain what we could do without the quorum after 12:30.
Great, and I will just basically turn it over to Lynn Nguyen, our legal counsel, to speak to that. Lynn, if you're there, we can't hear you.
Yes, I'm there. I'm having trouble with my video. It seems to not want to turn on. So if I can just speak to that without video. Yeah, the Bureau, without a quorum, can continue to discuss items that are on the agenda at the discretion of the chair. What you can't do is take any action or take any vote. But you can vote to make a recommendation to the full committee at the next meeting, if there is an action item. But I don't think that there are many on the agenda.
So thanks, Lynn. So I would say if the senator or Zima have anything that they want or think that there needs to be a vote on, to let us know. But I think Lynn's right. I don't see anything on the rest of the agenda that would necessitate a vote. But if anybody has anything before we break, now's the time.
I don't see anything, and I certainly apologize if I'm causing the train to derail.
No, it's not you.
Ditto. Yes.
No worries. Thank you both for being here. Is everybody comfortable with taking 15 or 20 minutes? Thumbs up from Joseph. All right, go grab something to eat, and then we'll come back and finish up. So let's say it's 12:25. Let's say 12:45. We'll come back. Does that work for everybody? All right. Awesome. Thank you. See you guys in 20 minutes.